Stalker, you can. I don't think the 4-gate blink is as powerful on a map like this compared to Cloud Kingdom, but it's also pretty safe for macro play, both for 2 and 3 bases if you play defensively. At the same time, 1-1-1 is also really good on this map too, so we'll see what's going to happen here on game number 2. All right, guys, C versus Naniwa, game number 2. Naniwa tournament life is on the line. Will C be able to complete the upset and cement his place in the StarCraft 2 scene? We'll find out. This is IPL 5.
IPL 5. Welcome to IPL 5, Ohana.
In the northwestern part of the map, we have a red Terran hailing from Team Liquid, the recent addition and one of the top Brood War players to convert over. He is
Liquid C.
C, a really fun streamer. Always loves to have fun. You can check him out.
I've seen him stream Brood War as well. That's something that you really don't see people do anymore. And I love watching because I come from Brood War, right? So watching someone of that level play is pretty sick.
Well, I also love this guy's play. The blue Protoss in the bottom right corner. Double quarterfinals in 2012. He is
Bionix Naniwa.
All right, so I want to see a game 3 here. I want Naniwa to be able to come back, bring it to 3rd game.
Well, if there's one thing that we've ever realized is that Naniwa can be extremely clutch given the right situations. If he has the right mindset, he's able to handle an incredible amount of pressure, even going back to his GSL days a few months ago, where he was facing off some of the best people in the world, MVP. He was facing off against NMrUUG. Those are the people, that's what it took to stop him, these championship caliber players. We'll see what Naniwa has on Ohana, immediately going for gas number 2. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. We can see a lot of mind games from that, but still, that opens up a lot of options for the Protoss player.
Yeah, and with Naniwa last game trying to do something really interesting like that 4-gate blink all in, it really wouldn't surprise me to see something like that again.
Wow, the birds are blue on Ohana. Wonder what they eat.
Legend is such a good observer, man.
Whoa, it disappeared. Did that bird blink or something? I didn't know what happened.
Reappeared, it cloaked.
This is clearly a Protoss map. We see that C is expanding and double gassing, very standard. You have a lot of options from here. We've seen Terran players also even go back into Banshees as C has shown a favor to quick tech. But you can also just go into a quick stim. Ohana, overall, a pretty safe map for 2-base play.
Yep. You can even get tanks. I've seen Tasia do that every once in a while here. Just go into almost like a mech hold with Banshee. And we'll just have to see what Naniwa's trying to do. It's already something with a robotics facility. You know, a lot of times if you're the Protoss here, you can just go ahead and try and take a Nexus before the robotics facility and do it really greedily. So it's interesting to see Naniwa maybe even not going to take that at all. Maybe going to go for a 1-base all-in. Something like 3 gates with Robo, or maybe even something else.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't dropped any other tech other than the Robo. He could go for, you know, maybe an Immortal Bust if he really feels like that's really strong. But, you know, some players, when they choose to do that, they go for the Proxy Robo instead and try to make it seem like a 1-gate expand. I know players like Bishu have done it a lot in previous tournaments. Ooh, the Probe trying to sneak by the Marine, he does. And that's going to be really nice for Naniwa to get confirmation on what's going on top of the ramp.
Yeah, he sees there's a bunker, and he did get 1 pylon up, proxy pylon on the left side of the map, excuse me. And that can definitely be used to do some sort of harass. He's making that Immortal, so looking more like 1-base play. It's very rare to see a Protoss go ahead and make Immortals before an expansion, I think.
Yeah, well, it does give him a lot of options, that's for sure. I mean, C sees no expansion. That's just going to make him super suspicious. He's got to be very cautious, and he is teching again once really quickly to Starport tech, getting those Banshees out. So, you know, C's going to be able to, you know, control the map a little bit, but he has to be very wary of what Naniwa's options are. It's within his range to just go up and straight up bust him if he's not careful.
Yeah, and Naniwa, I guess, just is playing super safe, although he is getting a second Immortal. So this could be something just with almost a fake or a Nexus cancel, or it could just finish and be just a very low eco 2 base attack. And he's going to see now with this Observer, so he's probably going to base what he does on what this Observer can see.
That's right. C still making Hellions, trying to poke here and there with him. Very nice. He's making a Raven first. That's going to be very nice, just to get rid of the Observer. And Ravens are surprisingly effective against, well, almost everything if you use it correctly, I guess. I was thinking about all the units. I'm like, well, they're good against Stalkers. Well, they're also good against like a lot of other stuff. Dark Templars too.
Yep, and C did see the proxy pylon, so he does know that there's that potential there. And with those 4 Hellions up at the tower, he can run them in and hopefully try and find out the timing of this expansion if he wants to. It's a little bit greedy, but he's running 1 in just to find out, to try and gain some information here. He's going to see that timing just in time to see it finish.
That's
and
right.
they're in the main.
And that's the first time he saw any kind of tech. I mean, it could have still been Dark Templars or something. And
Could have been carriers, man. He didn't know.
It could have been a Mothership Rush again, and we'd have a throwback to 2010, where Huck used to Mothership Rush all the time. Well, we do see that Naniwa finally has an expansion. I'm getting a quick Robotics Bay. Now, 2 Immortals does help you control the map significantly, but it's not like C is trying to go for a huge influx of tech units off the factory, or it's not like he's going for heavy Marauders. He's still just squeezing out Hellions and Marines while going out for 2 more factories. Whoa! You know, this is something we don't see. We don't see mech very often in TvP, mainly because every Terran player says it's awful. But you know what? C can change my mind. I'm willing to keep my mind open.
Yeah, and we're going to have to be, right? This is going to be an interesting game. He's still making Banshees at this point, and as you said, he's going into mech. As long as he can hold here, whatever this pressure is, which I think it's fine, it's going to be some sort of maybe Colossus, Immortal, maybe even just the 3rd base. Naniwa's been playing very safe. He can definitely continue to play safe.
And I mean, it could be in response to what C did last game. Saw him go 1 base tech into Banshee.
Yep.
Rather than die to something silly like a 1-1-1, he's like, I want to play it safe, you know, and just make sure to get a good number of units before he's able to move down for an expansion.
Nothing wrong with that play.
Nothing wrong at all, I think. So, do you feel like any person's ahead in this situation, Seth, or do you feel like it's just things are still unraveling and you get to wait and see?
Oh, C is definitely ahead. He's had his 2nd base mining for a lot longer. He even had a Vespene Gasping mine there for much longer, I believe. And he's even taking his 3rd already, getting that 3rd command center up. The mech is an interesting choice that it's very hard to judge how far ahead he is, but if you look at the worker count, it's something like 48 to 48. But again, mules, and soon mules off 3 bases.
Yeah, and you know, it's really interesting because once upon a time, mech used to be super duper strong in Terran vs. Protoss. If you think back to the days where Thorzane would go for like this +2 Thor attack, and just, well, we had maps like Typhon Peaks, man, but it was a dark time, man. I don't want to remember it. But he used to push, was just, you know, when Thors didn't have the energy on it, and it was just really tough to hold. But since then, mech has changed so much, and Protoss has really been able to capitalize on things like warp prison play, mass charge lots, even incorporating, you know, Archons to absorb some damage with the, you know, the prevalent use of Immortals and their range buff. All these kinds of things make it very difficult. I'm really, really curious to see what C chooses to do, but still, I mean, the power of mech still exists. You can't confront it.
All right, well, there's something really cool here that C was doing. Whenever the Zealot tried to run by on the right side, he killed it with only the 4 Hellions. He only showed 4. And then when the pylon was there and you wanted to kill it, he only showed Marines. This is kind of trying to trick Naniwa into think, okay, bio. I mean, obviously they're the 4 Hellions, but he would make more. He already has, look at 4 Marines over there killing my thing, killing my pylon.
Yeah, you're right. And he had the Raven denying information the entire time. This is really clever by C. Great setup, just like you said, Chef.
Yep.
Well, we do see that Naniwa is going for that 3rd base, setting up, you know, pretty standard times on everything, so we can get 2-2, have a very strong Gateway Colossus Death Ball, should he face off against any bio, and eventually transition over to Templar. So that's the main template that Naniwa wants to follow. But I mean, this is so interesting because I haven't seen a mech game in so long. I feel like I don't know necessarily that any timings that C has, whether he formulated it in his head.
Yep, well, I believe C did something similar to this in GSL, and we're going to have to see how it works here because it is kind of a very, I guess, unorthodox sort of style. He's showing those Hellions now, though, which is kind of a tip-off, showing that they have blue flame and everything. And so now Naniwa, we're going to have to see how he reacts to it. There are a couple things he can do. Really curious to see what he will do. Yeah,
I mean, I saw a post where it's like, you know, C went something absurd, like an incredible amount of tanks, and he's just like, yeah, Artosis, C heard your request. And if there's no confirmation about mech now, there definitely is with blue flame Hellions in a tank. So that's not a very standard mid-game composition at all.
Nope, not at all. making 2 more factories. We're going to have a 5 factory with 2 upgrades, at least 1 very soon, I believe.
Yeah, this is really interesting from SC2. You know, he's the one out expanding Protoss. As a mech player, usually you're kind of slower to expand because you're obviously less mobile, barring the Hellions. You don't necessarily have as much map control early on until you build a force of units. But C's been very bold in terms of controlling the map with his units, with being able to expand earlier. His 4th command center will finish soon, and he's harassing. The probes are lining up.
Oh, nice force fields there by Naniwa. Save those probes.
Nothing even touched that last Hellion. It just committed suicide.
Did you see the cool thing there too, where he used the Colossus to destroy the force field so the probes could go right back to mining? Just very classy.
That's convenient. That's teamwork, man. More factories being added on for C. General rule, if you want to like all in off 2 base, 5 factories is really strong, but of course that's what you need as a base minimum for 3 base, maybe going up to 7, 8 factories. The key is to keep ramping up your production because you want to be constantly cranking out those Hellions even if you feel like you're maxed, and just continue improve your power because Protoss can front load their supply. You feel like you need to get more medium units out. But, this is really interesting because it feels like C controls so much of the map despite him just moving around with Hellions, and Naniwa is being really passive because he doesn't know where C is going to strike yet. I feel like Naniwa is just as unused to this as we are.
Yeah, there's similar probe counts, similar-ish supply. C is up around 20. And the thing we're going to have to watch here is the big engagement. How are these Colossus going to fare? Are the tanks going to focus them? How are the Immortals going to fare? Are they going to focus the tanks properly?
Yeah,
and it's going to be positional too, right?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Position means everything with mech. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have all your units there. You can leave a couple tanks behind, but you just have the massive AoE splash, and you can just completely annihilate the Protoss army. Now, Naniwa is getting Storm, a very undervalued tool, especially against siege tanks. Oh man, even dating back to Brood War, Storm was awesome against tanks. But we don't see it terribly often against mech. So I'm just really curious to see how Naniwa chooses to engage. It just feels like he doesn't know any timings he can do. So he's restricted to, well, I'm just going to sit back, max, and make the best army I can, and see where I go from there. I'm going to scout and react based off position, and I feel like that's the best move in this scenario.
Yeah, it's 3 base versus 3 base for a really long time.
Ooh, High Templars!
Oh boy. Close.
Yeah, only 1 High Templar dies, so that's not too bad. But Naniwa just, this is his tournament life on the line. He doesn't want to make any false move. And so many times, if you're not familiar with mech and you move out in an inopportune moment, you just lose your entire army. And this is a very expensive army on both sides. 130 supply for C, it is massive. And Naniwa still needs a little bit more time to power up for 3-3 upgrades, get his War Prism out, because again, capitalizing on the immobility of mech is very key to your success.
Yeah, and another thing you want to usually abuse as a Protoss here is this immobility by taking a 4th, taking a 5th, maybe even taking a 6th, and always harassing the 4th. But Naniwa's been very, very defensive, almost afraid to go to the tower, even. They're just afraid to go past it, at least. And C isn't, man. He's going straight up to the tower. Could this be the engagement?
No, man. The Colossus is taking some free damage, and the High Templars do manage to deal with the Banshee, but the War Prism is now going over to the 4th base. But a Hellion run by into the main, and he's going to try to draw Naniwa out of position. He's giving up a lot of space, and that's going to allow C to move up, but C is actually falling backwards instead.
Surprise!
Oh man, I thought that was a perfect opportunity, but I think C really wants to welcome this War Prism with open arms.
he's realizing
he wants to warp
it.
I'm gonna send all my tanks to get it.
That's a lot of tanks, man. That's a lot of tanks.
So where do you go if you're Naniwa from here? You have a couple more options to incorporate Stargate play. Obviously Terran has a lot of trouble dealing with anti-air when they go for mech, but there's still, there's not that many Vikings. There's only 5. But Naniwa doesn't have time. He's going to storm onto the tanks, which is really nice, but they don't do as much damage as you would like. And Naniwa is balling up, so he has to be very cautious with how he approaches this. And C is doing a good job using the Hellions to feel out your shot.
Yeah, the thing here that Naniwa has to be afraid of is, I don't see how he can engage this siege line when it's sieged. He almost has to keep picking it apart the moment it's unsieged, picking off a tank, running back, picking off a tank, and he has to rely on the big fight, not necessarily winning it, but when he rewarps in 20 Zealots, so he needs to be throwing down a lot more gateways. He has a little bit of a bank, but I don't know if it's enough, because when these tanks and this fight happens, I can't see Naniwa really winning a straight-up fight.
Yeah, I think you're right, Shed. He's taking a lot of damage, and this chip away especially since Naniwa is not really committing to a full-fledged fight to take out some of the units. He can't really just remax and really go at it again and force another engagement. Although he does have a flank of Stalkers, he's joining them all up into one ball. No flank from the side because C has sensor towers everywhere.
He has the Immortals running up front. That's what he needs. This is going to be the engagement. Look at that positioning from C, but can Naniwa crush it?
Here we go. The Immortals absorbing a lot of damage. Archon trying to get into the mix. The Colossus doing lots of good job. Storm is on the top of all the clump tanks, and C looks like he's going to lose a big chunk of units, but so is Naniwa. Pretty much only Colossus remains, but that's a very valuable unit to preserve.
For sure. That was really, really lovely position there by C, curling all the way around that center plateau, and Naniwa thinks he can push it. He can't. Oh, but he's unsieged, so he could push this point.
C doesn't have a lot of Hellions to buffer between his units. A lot of his tanks, though, are staggered pretty nicely. It's not like Naniwa can keep pushing into this. And a lot of the units, oh, there's nothing really supporting the Colossus. There's only Colossus against Hellions, and the Hellions are running underneath and killing them.
Pushing Naniwa back with Hellions. Wow.
Man, I didn't think Hellions were that good.
You were like, what counters Hellions? Well, stop. Not even Colossus counter Hellions.
I think I'm going to make the strongest anti-ground unit from Protoss. Nope.
All right, so C has his 5th base coming up shortly, and Naniwa is just now getting his 4th base up. I think that's going to be where the fighting is going to take place. C's going to want to try and just constrict him slowly. C doesn't need to force a fight. He needs to force economic damage. That's what he wants to do, and equal traits, right?
Yeah, and if C can just limit this 4th base resource mining, you know, like, I mean, C's going to be on 5 bases compared to 3 at Naniwa. Naniwa's going to starve out. Now, Naniwa did have a big bank, but he's using it for 5 Archons. Now, he only has minerals really to warp in some units, maybe a few Stalkers, but he's running out of space. He's running out of time, and C is pushing closer to the 4th base as Naniwa will really want to preserve it for his income.
Yeah, I feel like Naniwa is going to try and defend this. Like, his army is waiting there. If his army was not going to try and engage this, he'd be running around trying to counter, kill reinforcements off. So I feel like Naniwa is going to really just try and hold this fort. Usually right, okay, here it is. Here's the engagement. First, Zealots running in.
The Archon's trying to absorb a lot of damage, but they really can't. They're kind of disorganized, filing behind some of the units. But it's not like C is fighting at optimal strength either. Some of his tanks were not in position, but it may not matter. Look at the staggering and the position from C. He is making mech work, ladies and gentlemen. This is something we don't see all the time. And C is playing incredibly right now, and he has 5 bases. He can keep sustaining this kind of production as he has 5 tanks and a lot of Hellions pumping out all at the same time.
Yeah, and anyway, here is going to make a row of Zealots, and that's going to be the fight. It's going to be, can this army and a bunch of Zealots break this? I don't think they can. That line that continues on, the continuation of mech, there's the Zealots, there's going to be a few Archon warped in. He's going to get that 4th base down.
Oh, on the 4th drop, Chef.
Wow. Just wow. Just who'd have thought? Mech versus Protoss.
I'm speechless. It's beautiful to watch C never really overcommit, just choking out his opponent, playing positional StarCraft, and it looks like Naniwa is running out of options. He's down to just 100 supplied to an almost max Terran mech army with 3 upgrades. It's not like Naniwa has a lot more options left. I mean, he's constantly forced to use his gateways. It's not like he can tech switch into anything useful. And C, he's doing a great job sending units everywhere, making sure there's no more expansions. Naniwa's running out of time. Is this the end of the tournament run at IPL 5 for Naniwa? He has to hold his position, but there's too many tanks. Naniwa's supply is only at 78, while Liquid C is almost double that.
Tanks, they're pretty good.
I agree.
I'm giving you high-level analysis here. Tanks are good.
Tank good, Stalker's bad in this scenario, Colossus not doing much, Immortal overextended, and Naniwa, I mean, he's going to hold out to the last second, but he really can't do anything. GG! Liquid C advances in the loser's bracket, playing mech TvP. Wow. This guy is on something special.
I want to see it again. I want to see it next round, man.
Let's load the replay and watch it, man.
You bet.
Well played by C, crushing defeat for Naniwa as he struggled. He has some of the hardest opponents. Look at his tournament path. He had to face against Scarlet, had to face against NMrUUG, and he plays against C, who plays mech and Terran versus Protoss. This is not Naniwa's best tournament performance, but can you blame him against, I mean, look at the opponents he had to face.
It's a very, very stacked tournament we have here today.
Absolutely. All 72 players are absolutely absurd. And man, Chef, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. This is just day number 1.
Yep. Do we know who we're gonna go into next?
I think we're getting that all sorted out, but you know, overall, do you think Naniwa could have done anything really different? Because I mean, it's a very unfamiliar situation. Because again, it's mech. What do you think Naniwa needed to do at certain points of game number 2?
Well, that's such a difficult question, right? I mean, the game changes based on his changes. It's like almost like a time-traveling paradox where we changed one thing in the past, the other person changes something as well. So I think...
Sounds like you should have wrote Looper, man.
Just maybe some different engagements, maybe being a little bit less passive with map control, but I really don't know. I thought it was still very nicely played. C just getting ahead early. Naniwa just being a little bit afraid to take his Nexus, and that's how it turned out.
I think C played a beautiful series as well because, you know, Naniwa was playing very safe. But looks like we're getting ready. We're going to show what the next match is on the screen in just a sec. It's going to be Tasia versus Creator. Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I get to keep commentating my Terran teammates, huh?
Man, this is